Really appreciate it. I'm glad you're here. This is an extremely valuable 4-part series that our guidance department put together, worked extremely hard on it. And I just wanted to take just a quick moment to recognize these three. All the way to my left over there, guidance counselor Janelle Cost, if we can welcome her to the stage. Counselor Chris-Ann Merrick in the back, handing out papers. And we have our guidance director, Ms. Corey Byron. They all worked extremely hard to put this together. And I'm supporting this and backing this 200% because I've been in education for over 15 years and in various roles, and I thought, particularly in my role, I thought I'd seen a lot, understood a lot, and then my daughter became a senior at a high school, and I realized that I know really very little about the college process, the application process, what it's going to cost, where she can get in, where she can't get in, what are the admissions requirements, how important is the essay, how important are SAT scores, where do we do this, what about financial planning, what is the FAFSA, what is this thing, and it just, stuff I thought that I understood, wish there was a seminar that I took that's similar to these four that these guys put together. So this is going to be extremely beneficial for you. So I welcome you, and I thank you that you're here. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over now to our guidance team. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for coming. Everyone can hear me okay, right? Okay. We understand that the college process and planning for your child's future is a daunting and overwhelming experience. So I wanted to just touch on a few of the upcoming events. Thank you all for coming tonight. Our next event is on March 4th. It's at 6:30 p.m. and we're really excited about this event. We have admissions representatives coming from 10 colleges, and they're going to be in the auditorium at the high school. And they're going to be set up in a Q&A type format. So we have a list of questions for them. And really we want them to speak to you about what they're looking for in a student and in an applicant. So that way you can hear it right from them and get information straight from the horse's mouth. The next event that we have is financial and legal planning. This is presented by 2 community members. We did this last year. They're going to go over some ins and outs of financial and legal planning, some things that maybe we haven't thought about, like when your child turns 13, you have to sign over, or they have to sign over rights for you to access their medical records and to talk to their doctors. So it's some things to get them prepared for when they go off to college and how you can, prepare your family. The last one is for after college acceptance, and this is very interesting, especially for seniors. It helps you kind of decipher what a financial aid award letter looks like, how much money you'll have to pay to the school, what the loans are, where you can access some extra money in scholarships or the work-study program. So all of these events are coming up in the next couple weeks, and we hope that you're able to attend. So tonight we're going to talk about a variety of things. It is going to be a lot of information, so if you could hold your questions till the end, that would be great. We have pens that we left out, so if you have questions, jot it down and we can answer them at the end. What we're going to be talking about is Google Classroom, some things we're doing at the high school. We do offer a mini college fair for sophomores, juniors, and seniors every year in the fall. And then we'll be talking about some testing throughout the night. So Google Classroom is a class page where we post different announcements about maybe scholarships, summer enrichment opportunities, college visits that might be coming up, career and job opportunities, and that is where we're going to be posting, especially when students are juniors and seniors, about planning for college and how to apply. So it's a really great resource. I encourage you to sign up. You do need a Gmail account. So if you don't have one, you might be able to get through your child's account. So I mentioned what the workshops and seminars are. This is really where kids get FaceTime, in addition to one-on-one appointments with their guidance counselor. So freshman year, we go into the English classes, and we go over a variety of topics, not just college and career planning. We talk about anxiety and stress management, social media and technology addiction, and then also healthy relationships. As far as the career and college piece, Students will be filling out a career interest inventory, doing some research on careers, and also looking at what classes they want to take throughout high school to help them prepare for their future after high school. Sophomore workshops are new this year. This is something that we've decided that we found was very valuable for students. The workshop format is small groups of 8 to 10 students, and we call them down. They get a pass and an email from the guidance department with an appointment time. And we are going to have them fill out a personality inventory. So freshman year they did the career planning inventory. And then they're going to do a personality inventory, and that way they can compare where their interests change and also look at different careers and jobs that match their personality. We're also going to be doing course planning with them. So we recently just created a format where students can fill out the classes they took freshman year, what they're currently taking, and then look at the program of studies and plan, what do I think I want to take as a junior and a senior? That way they can look at and see what their options are, and also keeping in mind maybe a different major or career and kind of forming their transcript to meet those requirements. Junior workshops is where we kind of get into a lot of the college research and college planning. So in our, we just recently had one, we just started them in January. I had one today. Students are we're showing them virtual tours online. We're going through their assessments that they've completed. They're doing a college search. They're filling out a survey for the counselors about their interests, where they want to go to college, or like what they're looking for, like location, size, so the variety of interests that they have as far as college. And then the guidance counselor is looking at their academic profile, so their PSAT scores, their GPA, their current curriculum that they've taken, and we're making recommendations based on that in addition to their interests. So the next workshop that we meet will be talking about their classes and looking at, okay, you said that you are interested in nursing. We want to make sure that you are academically prepared to go into that. Senior workshops are where we really focus on the college application process. So we're really getting all the kids together, sitting down, looking at the application, giving them time to fill it out with the counselor, so that way they can ask immediate questions. We're going through how to send SAT scores, ACT scores, just going over the entire process. So they really get, in addition to one-on-one appointments, small group time. Everybody is so busy, so the kids really like to have the time during the school day to ask questions and to have the chance to fill out the application. So those are some of the things that we're going through while your child is in high school. So the big question is well, what are college admissions counselors looking for? So as far as the application part, they're looking at your GPA, rank and grade percentile, your course curriculum, which is the courses that you've taken all throughout high school. You want to look at, have they challenged themselves? Have they taken courses that make sense? In addition, they're looking at standardized test scores, and we're going to go into a lot more detail on those coming up. They look at teacher recommendations and counselor recommendations. The counselors all write a counselor statement for every student that they work with, so that's part of an application process as well. We're going to go into more detail about the college essay, but a few other things to mention. They're looking at extracurricular activities. What has your child done during high school? I think one of the big misconceptions is that when you're involved in things, you need to be involved in like 15 things. When really what colleges are looking for is a dedication to something. So let's say you're really interested in the environment. We have a sustainability club. Maybe you want to start your own fundraiser. They really want to see you get involved in something to show commitment and dedication. So that's very important. The college interview that sometimes is offered at colleges and that can be part of their application process, it varies from school to school. So that's something else that might be required, and we'll talk a little bit more about what's involved in the application later on. Demonstrated interest, and this is something that can be really helpful for an application. Demonstrated interest is how often have you been to visit, reached out to the admissions counselor, shown interest in college. Certain colleges, like Bowdoin for example, they make a mark in their filing system to say, okay, Susie has come to visit, check. She's reached out to the admissions counselor, check. So they'll keep track of it, and that will help in the application process. Other schools, like Yale for example, they don't keep track and they don't care. So it doesn't matter for that school. So it's important when researching, and we tell the kids this during the junior workshops, to check that out. There is a program, Naviance, which I'll talk about in a minute, that will tell them if demonstrated interest is in fact something that they consider. This is just a reminder about the college admissions panels. We hope to see you there. So the slide I showed you before was in no particular order. After looking at the admissions trends survey, I don't know if you guys can see it, you might have to look at the sheet we gave you. These are the factors that across the board colleges consider to be most important. So my laser's not working, but grades in all courses. So on our transcripts, we only report the final grades for freshman, sophomore, and junior year. So a final grade is the average of the final in all 4 terms. That is what is shown on a transcript. So if your child, maybe term 2, the grade wasn't exactly what you thought it would be, or they wanted it to be, that's okay because they can still bring their grade up for the entire year. Grades in college prep courses, they want to see, are you taking courses that prepare you for college? And then the strength of curriculum. Are you challenging yourself? If you have a student who is in college prep classes and they're taking all the courses and they're getting all A's, well maybe they want to try an honors or an AP class sometime throughout their high school career. And that's what we really work with our students to make sure that they are being challenged but not being challenged too much. As you can see, SAT 2 scores, state graduation exam scores, work interview, and even class rank across the board aren't as important as some of the strength of curriculum and the courses that they're taking in their final grades. So I wanted to do just kind of break up so you don't have to keep listening to me talk. We have a little GPA game, so if you have one of these cards, if you could come down. That's Mr. McKent, Mr. Farm, you can come down. And you're just going to stand up in order of GPA. So 4.0 can start down there and come down here. So some of you may have seen this before. As I mentioned on the 2 previous slides, there are certain things they take into consideration, but that is not all of what they're looking for. If you're looking at a college like Harvard, for example, they get transcripts and GPAs that all are very similar. You get the top of the class, they've taken AP and honors classes. So how do they distinguish who to accept? So there's different factors that play into that. So we're gonna do a little game. So they have on the back of their sheets little descriptions of who they are as a student. So I'm gonna read the description and you're gonna move up or down based on what I said. You guys understand? Does it make sense? Okay. So if you have taken an exceptionally strong academic program, move up 2 places. If you have taken an exceptionally strong academic program. Okay. If you play the oboe or the viola, move up 1 space. If you clearly stated this college was your first choice by filling an early decision application and commitment, you're going to move up 2. If your intended major is psychology or pre-med, move down 1 spot. If your intended major is Greek, move up 2 spots. If you do not know any of your teachers well and had trouble finding someone to write your college recommendation, move down 2 spots. If you forgot to change the name of the college to which you are applying to, and you cut and pasted your essay, move down 4 places.
Come on!
Coming from the former English teacher. If you are a legacy, move up 2. If you did not write the optional essay for your college application, move down 1. So just to comment on that, in our senior workshops this year, that is something we really stressed because oftentimes kids are busy, they look at it as another assignment, they're like, I don't want to do that, but it's so important, it shows that you're interested in the school. The topic of your college essay was my trip to France, or what I learned playing sports. Move down 1 spot. If you wrote the essay of the year, the one that was passed around the admissions office because it was so remarkable, move up 3 spots. If you plagiarized an AP European history paper and got caught, sit down. Sit down. Get out of here. If you'll be the first in your family to attend college, move up 2. If you participated in an enriching summer program between your junior and senior year, move up 2. So that's something we post on Google Classroom. We're just getting a lot of emails and notifications about programs. I just received one from Cornell and Stanford. Those programs show that you're interested in your major, you're also interested in the college, and it really gives your child an opportunity to experience what school is like. If you have participated in no extracurricular activities, move down 3. If you have participated in significant community service projects, move up 1. If you are an Eagle Scout, move up 2. If you are a varsity athlete, move up 2. If you got a final grade of a D in an academic course at the end of your junior year, move down 3. If you came to the college information session and introduced yourself to the college representative, and in the case of a student who just got a D, explain the extenuating circumstance, move up 1. In some cases, if you are a resident of Massachusetts, move up 3. If you never gave your counselor any personal information for use in writing your college recommendation, move down 1. If your last name is Kennedy and the name of the college library is Kennedy, and it's not a coincidence, move all the way up to the front and stay there. So as you can see, when they're looking at, it's not just your GPA, it's not just your test scores, they're looking at you as a whole person. So that's why it's so important, and we stress this with our students, to get involved, to do community service, to work really hard. A D on a transcript can really hurt admissions, a final grade, not just like a term grade. As you can see, if they were out of this only going to accept 3 students, you probably would have thought in the beginning they would take the 4.0, the 3.9, and 3.8. But as you can see now, they'll take the 3.2, the 3.4, and the 3.6. So it does make a difference in, especially in like your essays and teacher recommendations, to really sell yourself in the application. Thank you guys very much, I appreciate it. As far as admission standards for the Massachusetts State University and University of Massachusetts, actually there was a question on that. So Massachusetts State Universities are like Bridgewater State, Salem State, Fitchburg State. The University of Massachusetts is UMass Amherst, UMass Lowell, UMass Dartmouth. So there was some confusion. The kids didn't really understand that. When they heard UMass, they thought, well, that's just UMass Amherst, but that's not necessarily the case. So I just wanted to clarify. They have admissions minimum standards that they put forth for any applicant to apply. So as far as the course curriculum, they would like students to take 4 courses in English and math, 3 courses in science, to include lab sciences, 2 courses in history, 2 courses in foreign language, and electives 2 courses. Now, this is the minimum requirement. So as far as the graduation requirements for Hanover High School, we meet all of these requirements. That being said, in our course planning, we always encourage students to continue more, to go above the minimum, because we want to give them the best chance during college admissions. The State University and UMass minimum weighted GPA is a 3.0. Now, that being said, there is a handout. Where did it go here? Mr. Ryerson had to move, I'm sorry. This handout is a sliding scale. So If you're applying to a state university and you have a 2.5, they would like your SAT scores to be around a 920. So they do accept below a 3.0, but they compare them to the SAT scores. Mrs. Koss is going to talk about some testing in a little bit, but there are schools that are SAT optional, and we'll get into more details on that. So I mentioned course curriculum multiple times throughout this presentation because it is so important. As I mentioned, we have a minimum core course requirement that is very similar to the state university system. And we are doing course registration this year for juniors starting March 9th. Sophomores are the week after, March 16th. Freshmen are the 23rd of March, and the 8th grade will be registering for classes online in Aspen, March 30th. All of our course registration is done online through Aspen. In the high school and in the middle school, the teachers have made recommendations based on your child's current performance, potential, maybe MCAS scores. So they look at kind of your student as a full picture rather than just what their grade is. So, like I said, they're recommended, they're in Aspen, and then we will be meeting with the students to talk about how can we choose courses that are going to fit what you're looking for. That kind of goes into this next part, which is Naviance. I know attached to the invite with Destination Graduation, this was a flyer that came out. So we didn't print it, we're trying to save the environment. So that is something you can access on your email, and it tells you what Naviance is. But I'm going to go over it quickly. Naviance is a web-based program that students access for college and career planning. It is a phenomenal resource. Students, when they take their career interest profile in grade 9, they also set goals. They'll be doing a personality inventory. All of this stuff is in Naviance, so it creates sort of an online portfolio for students to access and say, when I was a freshman, I wanted to be a nurse. My interests have changed. I can see as a sophomore, I'm more interested in maybe doing biological research. So it helps them kind of compare where they have been from year to year. In Naviance, they offer college searches, which we're doing with our juniors right now. And in the college searches, they bring up a profile of the college that tells you what is most important for them in admissions. Just like I mentioned before with demonstrated interest, that might be something they put high on their list. Maybe test scores and GPA are high on their list. And it's different for each school, and Naviance will tell students what to look for. In addition, it also tells them how many years they want for certain classes. So Boston College, for example, would like to see 4 years of English, math, science, and history, and foreign language, where another school might be different. So when we're doing the course planning, we're going to encourage students to look up a college that they're interested in to see what their requirements are. As early as sophomore year, our plan is for them to sort of do planning all the way through graduation to see do I have enough room in my schedule as a senior to take what I want. Obviously, this can change because everybody changes their mind, but it's giving students the opportunity to think forward and think about their future. Naviance also does something that I think is really helpful in planning for college. Oftentimes, I might have a student come in that says, hey, I'm really interested in Harvard, Yale, and Duke, and that's where I want to apply. Okay, that's great. You can apply there. However, we need to look at what the admissions criteria is. So this is an example of something called a scattergram. This scattergram is an X and Y axis, and on the side you'll see GPA, and on the bottom is SAT scores. The little green check marks are students from Hanover High School that have applied there and have been accepted. This is for American University, by the way. If you can see, I don't know if you can see it on your sheet or if you can see the screen, there is a little blue icon of a person. That is where this particular student fell. So they ended up having around maybe a 4.3 GPA and maybe a 1,300 SAT score. So this tells me that this is a great school for this person to apply to. They meet the academic profile. This is what I would call maybe like a likely school. It wouldn't necessarily be a safety, but likely. So when students are forming their college list, what they're able to do is say, okay, I have some on here that maybe I fall way below what the academic requirements are, but I also have some where I fall within them. So it's a nice visual for them to help plan for college. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Mrs. Koss. Okay.
Okay, so I am tasked with talking about standardized testing. So I'm going to talk a lot about PSATs, the different standardized testing, which is ACT and SAT, and give you a little bit of information about what that looks like. So in 10th and 11th grade, students are required to take PSATs here at the high school. They take it during the school day. It's in October. So if you have a sophomore or a junior student, they did take this past October. December is typically when those scores come out. This year they came out on December 9th. So the way that you access looking at those scores is they can go on to their College Board account. If they're in 10th grade and never created an account, it will, when they give you the notification of your scores, give you information about how to go on and register to get an account. So if you do have anybody that's in 10th or 11th grade and you haven't seen those scores, we're going to go through them. I'm going to give you some information about what it looks like and let you know what an actual score report is, so when you're analyzing it, you'll understand it a little bit better. So if for some reason you cannot get in, you can't find it, sometimes they will need an access code to get in it, please reach out to us so we can try to help to make sure that that account is created and you're able to see that information. So when you look at your PSAT scores, I'm going to show you kind of what the PSAT score report really looks like in the next slide. But what you're going to see is information about the benchmarks. So the benchmarks are going to show you whether or not the student is actually ready for applying to college. It gives you a little bit of information about college readiness. Are they on track? Are they ready to go? Or do they need a little bit more work? So the good news about taking it both in 10th and 11th grade is it gives them opportunities to improve and to get better and to improve what they have there. So next year, what we are thinking about doing, we're exploring and we're probably going to be doing, is in March of this year, grade 9, students are going to be able to participate in the PSATs 8 and 9. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work, but we are going to be doing that for students moving forward. Okay, so this is a sample score report. So along the bottom, you're going to see the test scores. There are 3 categories that you see up there. There's a reading, there's a writing and language, and a math score. So in there, you're going to see those scores. They're going to be looking at the ranges, which are going to be between 8 and 38. So along that bottom, that when you see those scores on your student's score report, they're going to be a range between 8 and 38. And along the middle part is the evidence-based reading and writing scores and your math score. So in those scores, those are going to be a range of 160 to 760. Okay? So right along the bottom, you're going to see a red line, a yellow line, and you're also going to see a green line. So what's important with those are the benchmarks. So when you receive your student's score, they're going to be kind of like, I don't know if you can really see it, but maybe in the handout, you'll see where the score fits in. If you're in the red section, that's going to tell you that they probably need a little bit more work and to improve a little bit in that particular section of evidence-based reading and writing. If they're in yellow, it means they're approaching that benchmark. They're getting closer to having the skills needed in that area. If you're in the green area, they're saying you're right on track with the benchmark of that particular score. So those are going to be broken up by 2 scores. Right above it is going to be a total score, and that's between 320 and 1520. That score up there is a combination of the evidence-based reading and writing and your math score. So it's going to be combined together, calculated together to come up with that final score. Okay? So what do you do with this now that you have it? It's a good question. So, did I go the wrong way? Sorry. I'm really bad at technology. I apologize. The next part is the College Board and Khan Academy partnership. So when you've received the results, students have an opportunity to go in and utilize what's called Khan Academy. It's a partnership that the 2 companies came together. What they realized in looking at some data a couple of years ago is they found out that by the official practice and just practicing these skills using their the Khan Academy, students were able to raise their scores. They were able to, in 20 hours of practice in Khan Academy, they were able to raise it an average of 115 points. So when students get their score report, they have the opportunity to link their score report to Khan Academy. And some of the things that they are able to do once they do that is be able to utilize the practice. Something unique that Hanover's doing this year, which is sort of a pilot program, is we're actually offering students to come into an academic setting here at the high school, and they're going to use their Khan Academy account, and they're going to practice. So it gives them time, either before or after school, to come in, both 10th and 11th graders, and on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, they can come in and just continue to practice. Because as we know, they're all really, really busy. So finding time to sit down on their own individually can be tough. So we wanted to see if we could pilot this and see how much success we could find for the students. So it did begin on January 6th. If for some reason, I'm not sure if there are going to be additional sessions moving forward, but if you are interested, if your student is not participating at this point, give us a call and we'll let you know what's going to be happening as we move forward. There are other private SAT preps. Kaplan is one of them. There is a handout if you didn't grab it on your way in. That gives you information about where Hanover High School is utilizing Kaplan to come here to the high school and offer preparation courses. So they're going to allow them to do practice tests, get feedback, sit in a setting like you would when you're taking the test. So if you are interested in doing that, you can look up on their website, but the dates are on that flyer, okay? So, the two tests that students will be taking as they reach their junior year, one is going to be the SAT and one's going to be the ACT. So the SAT is composed of three main sections, a math, an evidence-based reading and writing, and the score is actually different than the PSAT scores. It's based on a 1,600-point scale. There is an optional 50-minute essay that they can take. It's not required for them to do. That'll usually increase it from the 3 hours to the 3 hours and 50 minutes if they decide to take it. If you're not sure whether or not your student should take it or not, you can always reach out to their guidance counselor and ask questions based on the schools that they may be interested in taking. So you can register using the College Board, going to thecollegeboard.org, and that's the way you register for it. And students are recommended to take it in their junior year, either March or May. They are offered more than March and May. It's offered in June, and as they enter into their senior year, August, October, November, and December. The other test is the ACT. It is fairly similar. It's also multiple choice. The difference is there are 4 areas instead of only 3. So there is an English, math, reading, and science portion. It is scored very differently. It's on a 36-point score base versus the 1,600 of the SAT. There are conversion charts that students can look at as you get into getting both of your scores back to see which one is a higher score because they are scored so differently. This will take 3 hours and 30 minutes to complete. If you sign up for the optional essay, which is something that students can do, it just is over 4 hours. And you're going to use the www.act.org in order to register. Again, we recommend students taking this at the end of their junior year. So it is February, April, May, June, July, October, and December. Okay, so should they take both? That's one of the questions we get the most is should you take both tests? So colleges will accept both the ACT and SAT. Okay, so most colleges, as you're looking at the requirements, they'll say you can either submit the ACT or the SAT. So students can take both if they decide to. We often encourage them to consider to take both. And the reasoning is that students, if they decide to take both, they can see how well they could do on the particular test. The most practice right now that they have is on the SATs because they're taking the PSATs in October, both in 10th and 11th grade. So they really don't have much quite yet about what to do about the ACTs. So we often say to kids, try to take both, see where your strengths are, see what the results are, and then determine whether or not which test you want to take. I think the advantages of taking both is when they get to their senior year, if they score better on one test versus the other, they get to decide which one they're presenting to the colleges. If they're only focusing on one test, it means that they really can only submit that test if it's required. So in the beginning in 2020, we are thinking about whether or not students may be able to participate in what's called a pre-ACT exam. It's going to be similar to the PSATs. It's going to give them an opportunity to see the ACT before they actually take the exam. We're not exactly sure when we're going to be doing it quite yet, but we'll be announcing it if we do kind of decide to move forward with that. So one of the things that, as they get into the application process, many colleges and universities are starting to move towards what's called, it's called test optional. So you may hear this more and more as your students are getting closer to applying. Many of the colleges are trying to figure out how they're going to view the testing. As we know, standardized testing, some kids just don't do well in them. They don't score as well, and it has a lot to do with just how they take tests. So a lot of the colleges are starting to realize that things like GPA and what their curriculum and how well they're doing in the courses, are they challenging themselves in the courses they're taking, are better predictors than the actual test scores. There are programs that will require it, even if it's a test optional school, so things like nursing, medical programs, engineering programs. Those types of programs may still require an SAT to be submitted, even if the school is a test optional school. So you do need to kind of take a look at what the requirements are as your students are thinking about applying, so that you make sure that you know whether or not they're going to need to submit those scores or not. You can go to the websites and look it up directly on the website, but you can also go to what's called fairtest.org. They have a list of schools that allow you to see whether or not a school is a test optional school or not. So, Mrs. Merrick is going to talk a little bit about types of admissions.
I have an 18-year-old, and we just went through the whole process. It's not nearly as painful and dreadful as you think it's going to be. I promise that. All right, so some types of admissions. We have regular admission, which is just that. You apply for the regular admission deadlines, which are typically January 15th, February 1st, February 15th. Rolling admission basically means it's first come, first serve, so the sooner you apply, the better. Open admission, that means there's no specific requirements to get in. They pretty much take all applicants. That might be something like a community college. Early decision it's important to know that's a binding contract. Students can only apply to one school. Early decision. The only way that you can get out of that contract is if you cannot afford it. Early action is just that. We're seeing a big trend in students applying earlier. I started at the high school about 5 years ago. I would say maybe it was half of my students, and now I feel like it's really jumped in the last couple of years. I think kids are doing it because other kids are doing it too, but there's also kids who just want peace of mind and know that it's done by the holidays. It's also an option for kids who are feeling pretty confident with their GPA, that they feel like they don't need their first term marks to boost their chances of being accepted. Restrictive early action. That is basically you can apply to one private college, but you can also apply to other public universities. So it's just a little bit different from the other one. Deferred admission. Student applies, but they're not denied, but the college basically wants a little bit more information before they make their decision. So the student might send more test scores, maybe they call and speak to an admission rep, maybe they write a letter. So basically they're waiting to make their decision. Okay, so those are the types of admissions. Okay, how do students apply? We have this really great website called the Common App, and it makes it really easy for students to, they fill out their application one time, and there's over 900 universities that take it. We actually sit down with the kids and complete most of their Common App with them. For schools that don't take the Common App, we've instructed kids, they just go to the school website, click on Apply Now, and you basically fill out the same thing that you did for your Common App. The coalition application is basically just a more extensive application, but as I said before, most schools do take the common application. Teacher recommendations. We ask students to have 2 letters of recommendation. The first thing they need to do, and all the kids are instructed about this, is really important, is they need to speak with the teacher in person, okay? If they have not spoken to the teacher in person, they will not be able to put the request into Naviance. It's important for students to have 2 different subject areas of focus, and hopefully one that they wish to pursue in college, but if they don't know, that's okay too. Teachers who write letters of recommendation are looking for what's called the student information sheet, or the brag sheet. That can be found in the Google Classroom. Basically, the sheet it just makes the teachers and guidance counselors know your student even more. Maybe we don't know that a student has a job. Maybe we don't know that the student has played a particular sport for how many years or did dance on the outside. So this really helps teachers and guidance counselors just make the letter a lot more personal. So it's really important. And as you can see, I lost a point when I didn't give my information to the guidance counselor. It's really important for guidance counselors to have that information so that we can fill out the letter and make the letter represent who your child is. We also have this new, I don't know what it's called, but Mr. Ferrin has done it. It's really cool. We have a database where we're asking staff to be open to having conversations with kids about schools that they went to. So that's something new, and it's a great opportunity for kids to meet someone who went to the school that they would like to go to. The college essay. I have found that working with kids that, I don't know if you guys would agree, but this seems to be the most stressful part for kids because it asks them to talk about themselves. And I think kids find that really hard to do. Colleges are looking for a personal essay. They don't want to hear any more sports stories. As you can see, I believe we had to drop a couple points. They're looking for unique essays that stand out to them. They want kids to be creative. They, again, want it to be very personal. There's also, the Common App, if you go to the writing section, and we'll show kids this ahead of time. If you go to the writing section, there's actual prompts. There's about 10 of them that will help kids know what they want to write about. A lot of kids come to us and they say, I have no idea what I want to write. And the prompts actually give specific questions, okay? We have, the FACE program puts on a college boot camp, and we've done it for two summers. This will be our third summer. Basically, it's a great opportunity for kids to get a head start on applying to college. And we have found that the kids who did enter the boot camp were much more relaxed in the fall when applying for schools. Okay, we stress to students it's important to visit a college. How you go about visiting a college, you call. It's as simple as that. Call and ask for an appointment. Call and ask if you can attend a class, maybe even sleep over in a dorm. Eat on campus. Food plans are important to kids. You can also, if you cannot visit a college, we have recommended kids do virtual tours. It's pretty cool. You're standing there on the campus and you can see all the different areas and different buildings. So it's important to do that as well. That's okay. Okay, I'm not going to go too much into financial information because we have another night planned. But there's some websites here for students to find out a little bit about scholarships. The FAFSA, I thought that was going to be dreadful as a parent, and it was really simple. There's also a website called College Scorecard, which basically gives a lot more information about specific colleges and their costs and their finance plans. But again, we're going to have an opportunity to have another night that will speak specifically about finances. Okay. There's a tuition break program that's available. It's for students of New England who would like to apply to a different school that they don't live in that state. There is a requirement that they have a certain major, so it would be important for the student to go on the website to see if they have the major that they would like to apply to. For example, if a student wants to study recreational therapy and Massachusetts doesn't offer that and they want to go to New Hampshire, they may be able to get a tuition break. So it's a really cool program. There's a website up there as well. Other high school options. Basically, we talk a lot about college, but we also talk about other options, such as community college, mass transfer program, where if you go to a community college for a couple of years and you have a 3.0 grade point average, you are guaranteed admission to a state college for your last 2 years, and typically there's a tuition break as well. Gap year, some students find that a gap year is what they want to do. Trade schools and military options, and then we have students who enter the world of work. And that's it.
I just wanted to mention, in the email that was sent out for, I think, I don't know, Mr. Patek sent a lot of emails. I think it was the most recent one. There is a college planning guide that goes into really specific detail about everything we talked about tonight. This, we didn't print it, again, trying to save some paper, but you can access this online in the email that was sent out, and it will go through really specific information. So it's called the College Planning Guide, so please feel free to download that. I guess now, if anybody has any questions, this is time to ask. Yes?
The exercise you did when everyone was holding up the GPAs,
Yes.
do you do that for the students at school?
So the question is the GPA game, do we do that for the students at school? So we don't do it in like an assembly format, but we do have the conversations in the junior workshops. So part of the next round, because we gave them a lot of information in the last workshop, part of the last round will be to show them that. And I think this year we're going to start with the sophomores as well. So we haven't in the past done the GPA game and for the kids, but as you know, you guys can see, it's really beneficial. So we've decided to incorporate that into our workshops. We are hoping to get into the freshman classes as well. We talk about career planning and do it there as well. Yeah. So the question is what GPA is basically on the transcript that goes to colleges. For Hanover High School, we have a weighted GPA, so that is what is on the transcript. The weighted GPA includes weights for the level of the class that you're taking. So if you're taking an AP class, it's weighted higher than an honors or a college prep class. So sometimes I get the question, we're on a 4.0 scale that's based on the college prep standard. So sometimes a student will be, well, I have a 4.3, like I don't understand. But that's actually a really good thing because it shows that students have taken honors courses and AP courses, so they're weighted higher. So the 4.0 is a standard college prep scale. So we send the weighted one. Any other question?
Do you share any hypothetical personal essay question or essay that was written? Anything that's really exciting, maybe one example?
Yeah, so the question is what are the examples of an essay topic? Paraphrase, okay. So I had a student this year who was really struggling with that topic because it's really hard to, it's kind of interesting, it's really hard to talk about themselves in writing. I mean, I'm sure if you sat down with them and you got them to talk, they would love to talk about themselves, but to write about themselves is a little bit more difficult. So in the Common App, there's a variety of prompts, and one of them that is probably the most common chosen is topic of your choice. So the student and I were kind of thinking about, he's like, I haven't overcome any obstacles, like I've just played football and I don't want to write about that. So we started talking about his childhood, and I was like, well, what was your favorite toy as a kid? What did you like? What was your favorite character in a show? And he said, I really liked Buzz Lightyear. Anyone see Toy Story? So I said, that's awesome. So why did you like him? And he's like, well, he was like a leader and he was strong and powerful and he got along with people. And I was like, that's perfect. So how does that relate to you? How are you like Buzz Lightyear? So he wrote his college essay kind of incorporating the two, and it ended up really interesting because they read thousands of essays, and I thought that one really stood out as different. So sometimes it just is taking conversation to kind of dig a little bit deeper and something that's unique about a person. So it's just one example. So question, yes?
So I know you provide a website that shows the test optional. I know schools are evolving more and more and considering it just a curriculum. Schools that go with traditional tests, SATs, do most of them super score?
So the question was, do most colleges who require SATs super score? The answer is yes. So if a student takes the SAT, we usually recommend no more than 3 because data has shown that scores don't increase after that point. But they will take the highest combination of scores for the SAT. So if your child took it in May and got a 300 on the evidence-based reading and writing and a 600 on math, and then took it again and got a 600 on the evidence-based reading and writing, their total score that would be viewed to be 1,200. Questions? Yes.
So will it, my son's a junior, so will they ever find their actual class rank, or will it always be a percentage?
So the question was, will students find out their class rank or just their class percentage? We don't calculate class rank anymore. We calculate class rank percentile. So percentile is students fall in the top 10%, 20%, 30%, and so on. The reason why we did that, Mr. Piquet wrote, this very eloquently written, by the way, a description about rank percentile. What we're finding is that colleges statistically, there's not much of a difference between the 1, 2, 3. You're pushing the decimal points out really far. So a student who may be 25 is that actually was not necessarily benefiting them to give them the actual number. We do calculate, do on the Common App form the counselors fill out, we do have to put the highest GPA in the class. So that's listed, so they'll have a sense of where a student will fall.
So where do you find the GPA in the class? Is that in Aspen?
For what year is your
Um,
junior? Okay, so I believe right now in Naviance, under, I think it is About Me in My Account, you'll get the GPA that you will see, however, is the end of sophomore year because it hasn't been recalculated yet. But it is in Naviance. I'm not sure, Matt, do you know if it's in Aspen updated?
No, it'll be updated at the end of third term.
Okay, so it'll be updated at the end of third term. And at the end of the year for juniors, it will be recalculated so they'll know kind of where they fall as far as looking at colleges. So that will be available usually June, end of June. Yeah. Yes.
Did you say that was, What About Me? In that?
When you log in, I wish. Oh, we don't have the computer down here. When you log in, it's up like in the top. I can actually send like a screenshot out to or when we do like a follow-up, I can show you where that is. And if you put your email address on that clipboard that was following, I can follow up with that. When you log in, it's in the upper right-hand corner. It says like My Account or About Me. I can't remember what it was. But when you click on it, it'll say like My Account, and that's where it will be. Okay. And you can also, if you can't find it, please feel free to reach out to the guidance office. You can email or call, and we'll be happy to give you that information. Yes.
How many essays do you have?
The question was, is how many essays do you have to write? That is a great question. It really depends on the school. For the common application, if a school requires an essay, it's usually one in the main part of the common app. Some of them don't even require it. However, there is sometimes supplemental essays. So like a school like Providence, for example, they have a specific question. It is optional, but students should fill it out. And that is, depends on the school. But typically, it's one, but there might be more. So that's something that as we go through the application process with the kids, we'll point out and give them feedback on what to do. Yes.
So my son already took the SAT once, and he did the essay.
Yep.
But where does that fall in? What's the purpose of that?
That's another good question. So the SAT does have the optional essay. So her question was, basically, why is that needed and why is it important? The essay, when College Board redesigned the SAT a few years ago, they had this essay piece and they weren't really sure how colleges would view it. And to this day, since 2016, colleges still don't know. There is a link, if you go to College Board, that will give you a list of colleges that require the essay. It's not extensive. A lot of them kind of have done away with it. It's kind of going in the avenue of more colleges looking at test optional and looking at other pieces. But if he's took the essay and he's happy with the score, I would just leave that, and then you can take it again without the essay because it often isn't asked for, and you can check the list to see what colleges require it. It is an additional time, so I'm sure he didn't want that. Yes?
The SAT, is it online when you go to take it, or is it read?
So the question was, is the SAT online or do you go somewhere to sit and take it? Hanover High School is not a test center for SAT. They have chosen high schools throughout the country to do that. It is a pen and paper test. So when you register online, as Mrs. Koss mentioned, and they will give you a test center to attend. So whether it be, I think Norwell is one, Duxbury. In our junior workshops this year, we're encouraging kids, even if you're planning on taking it in May, to register now, so that way you don't have to get up super early and drive to the Cape to take it. I'm not sure if Mrs. Koss mentioned this, but what we're telling our students is if you are in pre-calculus and you're a junior, you should take the March SAT, just because it is a lot of the math that is covered, you have already learned it. If you're in Algebra 2, the test goes through Algebra 2, so to take it in May, so you have more of that curriculum. So it's just a side note. Is there Any other questions? Yes. No, actually, I actually don't even have access to it only because it's in the student's account. So we were trying during our workshops to go through our accounts to show them, and it actually has to be accessed through the student account. They can view it. However, if you would like your own parent account, we can give you access to it. So the parent account has more limited features, so you can't request a transcript and kind of do some of the college pieces because the program wants the students to have ownership to do that. But if you would like your own account, I think on that clipboard, I had a column for Naviance, so just check it off and we can provide you with a login on your own. Any other questions? Yes.
What year should we change our last name to Kennedy?
I don't think it's ever too late.
Great job.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Thank you very much. Yeah.
Are there like hard copies of the Common App, like to look at just to see what it looks like, or do you have to like log in and go through the whole thing to actually see what?
I actually don't know. Do you guys know? I don't think that there is anymore hard copies of the Common App. Yeah, you can create your own. That's actually a really good point you just brought up. You could create your own. Please don't create one for your child because
Yeah, you don't want to, just like to get a look at it, to see
Yeah.
like, oh, these are the kind of things that are on there before you actually start filling it out.
Yeah, you can actually, because you can create like a demo account, because that's what they allow you to do it. I think it asks the option, are you a parent, a student, or counselor? And you can just click on that option and create your own, so you can kind of get a feel for it. What I was saying about creating the account, like even for College Board, sometimes the kids create an account, and then you create an account, and then they're confused, and you're confused, so just try and make it one account. But you can create your own and view it, I believe. Yes.
With the Common App, can you gradually build it? So it's not like you have to go in and do it all at once?
Yes.
You can like, the next thing in over the summer and then build other things out.
Yeah, so the question was, is the Common App, can you go back and fill out information and keep adding to it? The answer is yes. It will, as long as you click save and continue, it'll save it and you can go back as many times as you want and add information. Yeah.
I'm sorry, did you say if someone has reached out, you recommend taking them on?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Cost. The Common App is available. You can go and log in now. They oftentimes August 1st, they flip over for the year. So even if you start filling it out now, it'll usually carry over unless they make significant changes. So you feel free to go and log in now. And just know that there may be a chance if you fill it out that it may not transfer over after August 1st. Any other questions? Yeah.
How important do they consider employment?
The question was, is how important do they consider employment? That's a great question, and the college admissions reps that we have talked to love to see when a student is working, showing a lot of characteristics about work ethic, ability to manage multiple things. As you know, with employment, you have to be responsible and showing up on time, being a good employee, and that speaks a lot to their character and what they're able to do. So if a student has the ability to get a job, at any point before they graduate, we highly recommend that they do that. And it's helpful for them to have their own spending money, right? Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. We'll be around if you have any questions you'd rather come up and ask us. And we really appreciate your time. And please mark your calendar for March 4th for the admissions panel. That's going to be a really informative night. We'll be able to give you really specific information. Oh, and, sorry, there is the evaluation form, so if you can fill that out and just leave it at the table as you leave, or you can hand it to one of the counselors, that would be great. Thank you.